Live, WECT News begins now with breaking news.
And that breaking news this afternoon, a controversial bill that would have shifted North Carolina's fishing industry is effectively dead in the water. We told you a lot about Senate Bill 442 over the last week, which would ban shrimp trawling within a half-mile off the coast. Representative Frank Eiler of Brunswick County, the bill's primary sponsor, tells WECT the House will not move forward with the bill. The bill passed the Senate last week, but immediately faced strong opposition from several lawmakers and shrimpers, hundreds of whom protested in Raleigh yesterday.